Hello again, friends. Thank you for joining me for what I hope is going to be a very special tasting today. We've got my most anticipated whiskey of 2021. I've been waiting for this to arrive, and it finally just turned up on the doorstep. So let me show you what we'll be checking out today. This is the Single Cask Nation Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And what's exciting about this is a couple things. So the first is that this is aged 24 years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But you can see here on the label it says, from an undisclosed distillery. But you've also got this, almost looks like one of those boutique whiskey labels where we've been given a cryptic clue here. And in this case, that undisclosed distillery is the original Heaven Hill Distillery. So for those of you that don't know, one of my favorite distilleries in the world, it is a distillery that has a long and storied history. So the original distillery was started in 1935. The Shapira family provided the startup capital. They were merchants at the time, and that ran until 1996, at which point there was this catastrophic fire that burned the distillery to the ground. And it makes sense if you think about it. Alcohol is, of course, flammable, and a lot of these buildings were very old and built prior to modern fire protection and sprinklers and all the stuff that you'd expect in a building now. So they lost the distillery, and it was a shame. And they subsequently bought the idled Bernheim Distillery in Louisville, which is the current Heaven Hill Distillery, and that's what produces all the whiskey that we know and love, like Evan Williams or Elijah Craig or many others. So this is from the old distillery, and that makes it a legit rarity. And that's something that I talk a little bit about in terms of, we are being sold this narrative constantly that whiskey is rare, or that bottles are allocated or hard to find, and in actuality, some of that scarcity is contrived because you can still produce the stuff, right? There's no limitations other than whatever the annual production is on being able to churn out more whiskey from Buffalo Trace or wherever, right? But in the case of distilleries that have been shuttered or destroyed, you don't have that. You can't get more Stitzel-Weller. All the Stitzel-Weller that will ever be in existence is in existence right now, and it's a dwindling quantity because people are drinking it up. And that's the case with this pre-fire Heaven Hill whiskey. So that's why I was happy to shell out. This was, I think, about $400 a bottle, and that's why I was happy to pay that price, because it's something that is legitimately rare. You're not going to be able to just go down to the store and buy more of this stuff. And I think the rest of the world agreed, because I heard that this run sold out in 9 minutes. So well done to Jason Johnston Yellen and Joshua Hatton of Single Cask Nation and the Jewish Whiskey Company. So what else can I tell you about this? It's, as I said, 24 years old, but that itself is another little wrinkle. So this was matured for half its life in Kentucky, and then for the other half in Scotland. Now, that's interesting because, as you guys know, Kentucky and Scotland have much different climates. Kentucky is a lot warmer during the summer, a lot more annual variation. Scotland is cooler on average and more temperate. And why that matters to us is because whiskey matures at different rates based on temperatures. Maturation is a chemical reaction. If you remember from high school chemical class, chemistry class, that maturation, that chemical reaction of maturation will be accelerated at higher temperatures. So it's interesting to talk to the old timers, people like Jimmy Russell, where their favorite whiskey or their sweet spot for whiskey, guys like Booker know, like, it wasn't 25 years. It wasn't like the kind of the age statements that we see on some of the better Scotch whiskeys. I mean, there was a reason that these guys preferred 8-year-old whiskey or 10-year-old whiskey or 12-year-old whiskey. It's because it didn't take that long to mature. And in fact, there's a little bit of a risk in terms of these extended maturations where if you've ever had some, like, Knob Creek had a lot of barrels coming out last year for their barrel pick program that were in that kind of mid-teens age range, and they can start to get overly woody and a lot of that tannic extraction, and they start to lose some of the body of the actual whiskey and be overtaken by the wood. So it's a risk. But this is interesting because you had 12 years, so a proper maturation in Kentucky, and then they moved it to Scotland where it matured for another 12 years. So what does that make this in terms of like an adjusted age statement? Is this, just back of the envelope math, if barrels in Scotland mature at half the rate as barrels in America, would this be like, you're doing like a dog years adjustment? Would this be the equivalent of a 16-year-old or a 18-year-old American whiskey? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. What matters is got some of it in the glass here, and we're going to be trying it. Now, I'm not doing a full review and proper scoring of this right now because I literally, like I said, just got the bottle, it just arrived. And I opened it up. It's still a little bit chilly from being outside since this is a neck pour. So I'm gonna do my best here. I'm just so excited to finally have my hands on this and to share it with you all. So cheers. I'm gonna kick off here. You can see the color, beautiful, just like a deep amber nectar there. It's got a great color. I love that. Such a pretty bottle too. I gotta tell you, I love these guys. They did away with the wax on this one, which I think is all for the better because that looks really gnarly. But they got that beautiful glass stopper there, beautiful design. I love the label. These guys are just up in the packaging game. Of course, it doesn't matter to what's in the bottle, but got some aesthetic appeal here. Yeah. So this is straight away. It's got a flavor or an aroma that really matches that color. There's a fantastic like a molasses note in there. Just that like dark, syrupy, kind of gooey, sweet richness here. Yeah. And it's great because I'm getting some of those deeper like foresty flavors or foresty aromas. There's like some aged wood, not aged wood I guess, but like old wood, like an old tree that's fallen down and rotting. I mean that in a good way. But there's also this counterbalance. There's this high note, all sorts of smoky scents in there as well. There's like the sweet smokiness of like barbecue sauce. If you get some barbecue sauce from one of the regions that has like a hot and sweet and spicy one. I know Sweet Baby Ray's has that sweet and spicy flavor that I love. There's also like it's got a stony note in here, like a limestone note. And this is just one I've talked to you guys about these before. Some just smell so good that you're torn because you don't want to ever quit smelling them. Yeah, like there's some great really spicy notes in here, and just like a whole spice drawer full, get like black peppercorn or maybe like an Asian 5-spice. Man, just so much goodness in here. All right, I gotta take the plunge. You guys want to just give this a little sip here. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So just first impressions. I mean, it's very elegant. It's very lean. It's not the flavors developing really well. It's not that dried out like bitter, like you feel like you're chewing on a stave. It's got a bit of ash at the end, which I love. That's like my friend David Jennings, who I am very jealous of because he has had his hands on his bottle for a couple weeks. I was later in the shipping queue, but he'll often talk about like that leather aroma or flavor that you get in like Dusty Wild Turkey, and this has a lot of that. Similar profile. I didn't tell you guys, this is 47.4% ABV. So, it's not, if you think about a cask strength bottling of American whiskey, you're talking about, excuse me, depending on the barrel entry proof, somewhere on the order of like 50, 55, 60, even up to 70%. And the other thing about Scotland is that in the cooler climate, particularly with more humidity, water and alcohol evaporate at different rates. So it's going to be different rates of ABV in the end, depending on whether you were in a cool, damp Scottish warehouse or a hot, dry rickhouse in Kentucky. But yeah, this is okay. Gonna start to get into like proper sips here, and yeah. So there's an interesting development at the front of the palate. It's kind of like sweet, but not in a usually I think of it as sweet and fruity. Well, there's a little bit of fruit in here, but there's like a very pure, like a sugary sweetness, like almost like a candy flavor. Yeah, and then again, it gets kind of linear and moves very, very tightly into the back of the mouth, where all of a sudden there's this bloom of all these and again, this is why people go crazy for the much older bourbon whiskeys. There's some of these flavors that just start to emerge where more of the wood takes over, and again, it hasn't become unbalanced in this case. It's still very much harmoniously integrated into the whole, but you are getting more of those like just those really like I always think of like an antique bookshop, right? It's like old wood and leather, and there's like some tobacco in there, and again more of that spice. This is just super cool. And again, a taste of something that you're never going to be able to get again. I mean, this is, like I said, there's a limited amount of whiskey and a diminishing quantity of it, given that we're doing this, we're drinking it. So I'm very happy with my purchase, and I'm even happier that I got a whole bottle, because I am looking forward to sharing this with so many people that have just been hyper generous with me in terms of making sure that I got to taste some really special stuff and unique stuff, truly unique stuff, not just somebody said it was unique, but again, from these destroyed distilleries from days of yore. So I'm going to be making sure that all those people get paid back in kind with this. And I've got another bottle for my friends, the Bourbon Crusaders, going to be auctioned off for their charity auction coming later on this year, once we can all get back together again. But in the meantime, just super grateful to have this, and super grateful to have the attention of all y'all for a few minutes to share this with me. So thanks again, and to everybody out there who continues to indulge me with their attention and their patience. Cheers.